In the morning, my wife texted me, "Plans changed, you're not coming on the cruise." My mother wants only her family. The next day I canceled the payments, sold the house, and left town. When they came back the house, the text message came at 7:15 in the morning while I was drinking coffee in our kitchen. "Plans changed. You're not coming on the cruise. Mom wants only her family." I stared at that message for a long time. 15 years of marriage, and my wife Karen just uninvited me from a vacation I'd been paying for. The cruise was supposed to leave in 3 days. I'd already taken time off work, already packed my bags, already transferred $8,500 to cover both our tickets, plus another $3,000 for excursions and spending money. But apparently, I wasn't family anymore. My name is Jonathan Hayes. I'm 42 years old, and until that Tuesday morning, I thought I had a pretty good handle on my life. I run a successful HVAC installation business in suburban Michigan, built it from nothing over 18 years, starting with just me and a truck. And now I've got 12 employees in contracts with half the commercial buildings in 3 counties. Karen and I met when I was 27 and she was 24. She was working as a dental hygienist back then, always smiling, always making people feel comfortable. Her mother, Patricia, had been polite enough in the early years, never warm exactly, but civil. Her father, Douglas, was the same way. Present at family gatherings, but never really engaged with me. I'd written it off as them being protective of their only daughter. The cruise had been Patricia's idea, a family celebration for her and Douglas's 40th wedding anniversary. Karen had been excited about it for months, showing me brochures, planning which ports to visit, talking about how nice it would be for everyone to spend quality time together. I'd written the checks without hesitation, because that's what you do when your wife is excited about something. You support it. You make it happen. But now, sitting in my kitchen with that text message glowing on my phone screen, I realized I'd been funding my own exclusion. I called Karen immediately. She answered on the 4th ring, her voice bright and cheerful like nothing was wrong. "Hey babe, did you get my text?" "Yeah," I said, keeping my voice level. "Want to explain what's going on?" "Oh, it's just that Mom was talking to Dad last night and they realized the cruise would be a good opportunity for our side of the family to reconnect. You know, just blood relatives. Nothing personal. Nothing personal." Those 2 words did something to me. 15 years of marriage and I wasn't considered family by her parents. And apparently Karen agreed with them enough to uninvite me without even a conversation first. "Karen, I paid for this cruise. I paid for your ticket, your mother's ticket, the whole thing." "I know, and we really appreciate that," she said, like I was a generous stranger instead of her husband. "But this is about family time. You understand, right?" I didn't understand. What I understood was that my wife had just chosen her mother's arbitrary definition of family over our marriage. "When are you leaving?" I asked. "Day after. Tomorrow. I'm actually at Mom's house right now helping her pack. We're going to stay here tonight and tomorrow night, then drive to the port together early Friday morning." So, she wasn't even coming home. "I'll see you when you get back then." I said, "Okay, sounds good. Love you." She hung up before I could respond. I sat in that kitchen for another hour, drinking cold coffee and thinking about every family gathering over the past 15 years. Every Thanksgiving, where Patricia had made pointed comments about Karen deserving better. Every Christmas where Douglas had barely acknowledged my presence. Every birthday and anniversary where her parents had given Karen elaborate gifts and me nothing at all. I'd told myself it didn't matter that I was secure enough in my marriage to not need their approval, but apparently it had mattered to them and it had mattered to Karen whether she wanted to admit it or not. Around 9 that morning, I called my lawyer. Frank Morrison had handled my business contracts for years and I trusted him to give me straight answers. "Frank, hypothetical question. If someone pays for a vacation and then gets uninvited, can they cancel the payment?" "Depends on the circumstances," Frank said. "Who paid? Who's traveling? And what's the relationship?" "I paid for my wife and her parents to go on a cruise. My wife just uninvited me, but expects me to still pay for it." There was a long pause. "Jonathan, that's not a hypothetical question, is it?" "No, it's not." "Then my advice is to document everything. Save that text message. Save any other communications. And yes, if you're the one who made the payments, you have every right to cancel them." "What about the house?" I asked. "What about it? It's in my name. I bought it 5 years before I married Karen. If I wanted to sell it, could I?" Another pause. Longer this time. "Jonathan, what are you planning?" "I'm planning to make some changes in my life. I just need to know what my options are." Frank spent the next 20 minutes laying out exactly what I could and couldn't do legally. The house was mine, purchased before marriage with money I'd earned before marriage. Karen had no legal claim to it. The cruise payments were made from my personal account, not our joint account, which meant I controlled them completely. Our joint account had about $15,000 in it, but since we'd kept mostly separate finances throughout our marriage, the bulk of my assets were entirely under my control. "One more thing," I said. "If I wanted to leave town for a while, Maybe relocate the business? Would that complicate a divorce? You're really doing this, Frank said. It wasn't a question. I'm really doing this. Then, no. Relocating wouldn't complicate things, especially since you don't have kids. Jonathan, I have to ask, are you sure about this? 15 years is a long time to throw away over one cruise. It's not about the cruise, Frank. It's about what the cruise represents. I've spent 15 years being treated like an outsider in my own marriage, and I'm done. After I hung up with Frank, I made 3 more calls. The first was to the cruise line. Yes, I could cancel all 3 tickets with a full refund since we were still outside the penalty window. The customer service representative sounded sympathetic when I explained that my wife had uninvited me from our anniversary trip. The second call was to my realtor, Madison Cooper. She'd sold me the house 17 years ago and had been asking for years if I'd ever consider selling. Madison, remember how you said this property would triple in value if I ever wanted to sell? Jonathan, is this really happening? Listed today. I want it sold within 30 days. For what price? I named a figure that would clearly but still net me a substantial profit. That's below market value, Madison protested. I can get you another $100,000 easily. I don't need another $100,000. I need it sold fast. Can you do it? I can have it listed by this afternoon and probably have offers by tomorrow morning. But Jonathan, where are you going to live? Somewhere that isn't here. The third call was to my business partner, Trevor Nash. He and I had been working together for 8 years, and I knew he'd been wanting to buy me out for the last 2. Trevor, remember how you said you wanted full ownership someday? Yeah, but I thought you meant in like 10 years when you retire. I mean now. Make me an offer. We spent an hour negotiating. Trevor was a good guy and a fair businessman. He offered me $400,000 for my half of the company, which was slightly below market value, but came with a promise of immediate cash and a smooth transition. I'll have the papers drawn up by Friday, Trevor said. But man, what's going on? This is really sudden. Life suddenly got very simple, I told him. Turns out when people show you who they really are, you should believe them. By Tuesday afternoon, I'd canned the cruise tickets, listed my house, and agreed to sell my business. I'd also gone to the bank and withdrawn $10,000 in cash from my personal account just to have liquid funds available. Then I went home and started packing. Not everything, just what I needed. Clothes, personal documents, the few things that had sentimental value. Everything else could stay for the house sale. Karen didn't call that night or the next day. She was too busy at her mother's house, probably laughing about how they'd managed to exclude me from their precious family cruise. Fine, let them laugh. They had no idea what was coming. Thursday morning, I got a text from Madison. 3 offers already. Hist is asking price. All cash. Wants to close in 3 weeks. Except I typed back a single word. Yes. By Thursday afternoon, I'd signed the paperwork to sell my house. By Thursday evening, I'd signed the paperwork to sell my business. By Friday morning, when Karen was probably boarding that cruise ship with her parents, I was loading my truck with everything I cared about and driving away from the life I'd built in Michigan. If you're finding this story valuable, if it's making you think about the hidden dynamics in your own relationships, please hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment below about a time when someone showed you their true colors. And don't forget to like this video so more people can hear this story. Your support means everything to this channel. I drove west, not because I had a specific destination in mind, but because west felt like the opposite of everything I was leaving behind. I'd always wanted to see Montana, the mountains, and the wide open spaces. Figured now was as good a time as any. I stopped at a motel outside of Chicago that first night, paid cash, and sat in the room thinking about what Karen's reaction would be when she got home. The cruise was 7 days. She'd be back next Friday, expecting to walk into our house and pick up where she'd left off. Instead, she'd find an empty house with a sold sign in the front yard and a note from me taped to the kitchen counter. I'd written the note before I left, kept it simple and direct. Karen, since I wasn't family enough to join the cruise, I figured I wasn't family enough to stay in this marriage either. The house is sold. The business is sold. By the time you read this, I'll be gone. Your mother got what she wanted. A family cruise without me. Hope it was worth it. Don't try to find me, Jonathan. I kept driving west through Iowa, South Dakota, and finally into Montana. Found a small town called Bridger Ridge, population 4,000, where the nearest city was 2 hours away, and people still left their doors unlocked at night. Rented a cabin on the edge of town month to month, and settled in to figure out what came next. My phone started ringing on Friday evening. Karen calling from the cruise ship, probably having just gotten cell service at one of the ports. I didn't answer. She called 6 more times that night. Then her mother called. Then her father called. I didn't answer any of them. Saturday morning, I had 14 text messages waiting for me. Most were from Karen, progressing from confused to angry to panicked. Why aren't you answering? Jonathan, this isn't funny. My mom says you canceled the cruise payments. What's going on? Call me right now. The last text was from Sunday morning. We had to pay for the cruise ourselves. Do you have any idea how much that cost? We're coming home early. You better have a good explanation for this. I deleted all the messages without responding. Monday afternoon, I got a call from Frank Morrison. Jonathan, your wife's lawyer just contacted me. She's threatening to sue you for the house sale proceeds. The house was mine before we married. I said calmly. She has no legal claim to it. That's what I told her lawyer. He's not happy, but he knows she doesn't have a case. However, she's also claiming you abandoned the marriage and she wants spousal support. We kept separate finances for 15 years. She has her own income and her own savings. Tell her lawyer that if she wants to fight this, we can fight it. But she's not going to like how it ends. Frank sighed. You're really burning every bridge, aren't you? Frank, the bridges were already burned. I'm just acknowledging it. Tuesday morning, Karen finally got smart and had her mother call me. Patricia's voice was cold and sharp when I answered. Jonathan, I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but you need to stop this nonsense and come home immediately. Home to what, Patricia? The house is sold. I don't live there anymore. You can't just sell a house without consulting your wife. I can when it's my house that I bought before I married your daughter. But thank you for proving my point. What point? That I was never really family to you people. You made that clear when you uninvited me from a cruise I paid for. So, I made it clear that I'm done pretending to be part of a family that doesn't want me. Don't be ridiculous. Of course, you're family. We just wanted some quality time with our daughter. Then, you should have said that from the beginning instead of sending me a text message the morning I was supposed to leave. You should have talked to me like an adult instead of treating me like an inconvenience. Patricia's voice got even colder. Karen made a mistake marrying you. I told her that from the beginning. You were never good enough for her. You know what, Patricia? You're absolutely right. I was never good enough for Karen because being good enough for Karen apparently means being okay with being treated like I don't matter, and I'm not okay with that anymore. I hung up before she could respond. Wednesday, I got a call from Douglas. This was surprising because in 15 years of marriage, Douglas had probably spoken directly to me maybe 20 times. Jonathan, this is Douglas. I think we need to talk Monto man. I'm listening. You've made your point. You're angry and you have a right to be. But walking away from a 15-year marriage over one misunderstanding is extreme. It's not a misunderstanding, Douglas. Your wife told my wife that I wasn't family. My wife agreed with her enough to uninvite me without even discussing it with me first. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a fundamental problem with how your family views me. Patricia can be protective of Karen. You know that. She didn't mean anything by it. Then why did Karen go along with it? Why didn't she say, no, Mom, Jonathan is my husband and he's coming with us? Why didn't she defend our marriage instead of just sending me a text message? Douglas was quiet for a moment. She should have handled it differently. I agree with that. But she loves you, Jonathan. She's devastated right now. Is she devastated because she loves me? Or is she devastated because I finally pushed back against 15 years of being treated like I don't matter? Another long silence. What would it take for you to come back? I'm not coming back, Douglas. I'm done. Tell Karen she can file for divorce, and I won't fight it. We kept our finances mostly separate, so the division of assets should be straightforward. I've already instructed my lawyer to be fair but firm. She'll get what she's legally entitled to, which isn't much since most of my assets were acquired before the marriage. You're really going to throw away 15 years over this? I'm not throwing anything away. Your family did that when they decided I wasn't worth including in your anniversary celebration. I'm just accepting reality. Thursday morning, Karen called from a number I didn't recognize. When I answered, her voice was different, smaller, uncertain, nothing like the confident woman who'd sent me that text message 9 days ago. Jonathan, please, we need to talk about this. What's there to talk about, Karen? I made a mistake. I should have stood up for you. I should have told my mom that you were coming no matter what she said. Why didn't you? She was crying now. I don't know. She was so insistent and I just didn't want to fight with her about it. I thought you'd understand. Understand what? That your mother's feelings are more important than our marriage. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean, Karen? Because from where I'm sitting, you chose your mother over me. You decided that 15 years of marriage was less important than avoiding a difficult conversation with Patricia. I love you, Jonathan. Then why did it take losing me for you to say that? Why did it take me selling our house and leaving town for you to realize that maybe, just maybe, you should have fought for our marriage? Karen sobbed on the other end of the line. Where are you? Just tell me where you are and I'll come there. We can work this out. No, we can't, because even if you came here, even if we tried to patch things up, nothing would actually change. Your mother would still see me as not good enough. Your father would still barely acknowledge my existence and you would still prioritize their feelings over mine because that's what you've been doing our entire marriage. That's not true. Karen, name one time in 15 years when you chose me over them. One time when your mother criticized me and you defended me. One time when they excluded me from something and you pushed back. The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. Finally, she whispered, "I can't." Exactly. And that's why this is over. Not because of one cruise, but because that cruise was just the final proof of what I've known deep down for years. I was never really your partner, Karen. I was just the guy you married, despite what your family wanted. Friday morning, exactly 1 week after Karen had sent me that text message, I signed the final papers on the house sale. My half of the business sale had already cleared. I had close to $600,000 in liquid assets, no debt, and a whole new life ahead of me. I bought a piece of land outside Bridger Ridge, 20 acres with a view of the mountains and enough space to build something exactly the way I wanted it. Started drawing up plans for a house. Something simple but solid. Something that was mine and mine alone. I also started a new business, small-scale HVAC work, mostly residential service calls and installations. Nothing like the commercial operation I'd run in Michigan, but enough to keep me busy and bring in steady income while I figured out what I wanted long-term. Karen sent me one final text message 2 weeks after I left. "The divorce papers came today. I signed them. I hope you find whatever you're looking for, Jonathan. I'm sorry I couldn't be the wife you needed." I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. Sometimes people show you who they really are, and the kindest thing you can do for yourself is believe them the first time. 3 months later, I was standing on my new property watching the sunset behind the mountains when my phone rang. Unknown number, but I answered it anyway. "Is this Jonathan Hayes?" A woman's voice asked. "Depends on who's asking." "My name is Nicole Brennan. I'm Patricia's sister, Karen's aunt." I hadn't seen Patricia's sister in probably 10 years. She lived in California and rarely came to family gatherings. "Okay," I said cautiously. "What can I do for you?" "I just wanted to tell you that I'm sorry for what my sister did to you. I heard about the cruise situation and I think you did the right thing by leaving. That surprised me." "Thank you. But why are you calling to tell me this?" "Because Patricia's been telling everyone that you abandoned Karen without warning. That you were an unstable husband who couldn't handle normal family dynamics. And that's not what happened at all, is it?" "No, it's not. I figured as much. Patricia has always been controlling and she's always treated Douglas like he's lucky to have her. She did the same thing to Karen's boyfriends before you. Drove most of them away with her passive-aggressive nonsense. You lasted longer than most because you were patient and tried to keep the peace. But that text message about the cruise, that was too much even for someone with your patience." "You got that right." Nicole sighed. "Karen called me last week. She's a mess." Jonathan finally realizing what she lost, but it's too late. "Patricia is trying to tell her she's better off without you. But Karen knows that's not true." "Is there a reason you're telling me all this?" "Because I wanted you to know that not everyone in that family is crazy. Some of us saw how hard you tried to make that marriage work despite Patricia's interference. And some of us think you deserve to be happy." "I appreciate that, Nicole. Really, I do. But that chapter of my life is closed now." "I understand. I just wanted you to know that someone in Karen's family sees the truth about what happened." After I hung up with Nicole, I stood on my property for a long time thinking about the past 3 months. I'd left Michigan with nothing but a truck full of belongings and a heart full of anger. But somewhere along the way, the anger had faded. Now I just felt relief. Relief that I didn't have to attend any more awkward family dinners where Patricia made pointed comments about my career choices. Relief that I didn't have to hear Douglas's silent judgment every time I expressed an opinion. Relief that I didn't have to watch Karen choose her parents' comfort over my dignity one more time. The divorce was finalized 6 months after I left Michigan. Karen got her personal belongings and her car. I kept everything else since most of it had been mine before the marriage anyway. Fair enough. She didn't contest it. Didn't ask for spousal support. Didn't try to claim half the house sale proceeds. Maybe Nicole had talked some sense into her. Or maybe Karen had finally realized that fighting for money wouldn't fix what was actually broken between us. I heard through the grapevine that she moved back in with Patricia and Douglas. Apparently, they were thrilled to have their daughter back under their roof where they could protect her from men like me. Men who had the audacity to expect equal treatment in their own marriages. I wish them well genuinely, not because I forgave them, but because holding on to resentment would have poisoned the new life I was building. A year after I left Michigan, I was sitting in a local diner in Bridger Ridge when a woman sat down across from me. She was maybe 38 with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail and laugh lines around her eyes that suggested she smiled more than she frowned. "You're Jonathan Hayes, right?" she said. "The HVAC guy who bought the Schneider property?" "That's me. Do we know each other?" "Not yet, but I'm hoping to change that. I'm Amanda Price. I teach high school English in town, and I just bought the old Morrison place about a mile from your property. My furnace is making a noise that sounds like a dying whale, and everyone in town says you're the guy to call." I laughed. "A dying whale, huh? That's a new one." "I'm serious. It's this horrible groaning sound that starts around 3 o'clock in the morning and doesn't stop until noon. My students think I'm losing my mind because I keep falling asleep during fifth period. I can come take a look this afternoon if you want. That would be amazing. Fair warning, though, my place is a disaster. I'm still unpacking from the move and there are boxes everywhere. I've seen worse. Give me your address and I'll be there around 2. Amanda's house was exactly as advertised. Boxes stacked in every room, furniture arranged haphazardly, and a furnace that did indeed sound like a dying whale. Turned out the blower motor was going bad. An easy fix that took me maybe an hour. We got to talking while I worked, and I found out she'd moved to Montana from Oregon after a divorce of her own. No kids. Just wanted a fresh start, somewhere quiet where she could focus on teaching and maybe write the novel she'd been planning for years. "So, what brought you to Bridger Ridge?" she asked, handing me a wrench I didn't actually need, but accepting anyway. Long story. Short version is my ex-wife uninvited me from a family cruise, and I decided I was done being treated like I didn't matter. Amanda nodded thoughtfully. My ex-husband did something similar. Not a cruise, but he kept prioritizing his mother's opinion over mine. Finally, I told him he could stay married to his mother, and I'd find someone who actually wanted to be married to me. How long's it been? 2 years took me the first year to stop being angry about it. The second year I actually started enjoying my life again. I'm about 9 months in. Still working on the enjoying my life part, but I'm getting there. Amanda smiled. Well, if you ever want company while you work on that, I make a mean pot of chili, and I'm always looking for someone to talk books and philosophy with. I finished fixing her furnace and charged her half my usual rate because she made me laugh 3 times during the repair. She invited me back for dinner the following week, and that dinner turned into regular Friday night conversations that stretched late into the evening. 6 months after meeting Amanda, we were unofficially together. Nothing rushed, nothing forced, just 2 people who'd been burned before taking it slow and building something real. She met my expectations without me having to lower them, defended me when her friends made casual jokes at my expense, and treated me like a partner instead of a project that needed fixing. A year and a half after leaving Michigan, I woke up in my finished house on my property with Amanda sleeping beside me and realized I was genuinely happy. Not the fake happy I'd convinced myself I felt with Karen, but real contentment that came from being with someone who saw me as family without needing a blood test to prove it. I got one final communication from Karen 2 years after I left Michigan. It came through Frank Morrison, my lawyer. She wanted to know if I'd consider talking to her just once so she could apologize properly. Frank asked me what I wanted to do. I thought about it for a few days. Part of me was curious about what she'd say, whether she'd finally understood what went wrong between us, but a bigger part of me knew that conversation wouldn't change anything. It would just reopen old wounds that had finally started to heal. "Tell her I appreciate the gesture," I said to Frank, "but I've moved on. I hope she has too." Frank delivered the message, and that was the last I heard from anyone connected to my old life in Michigan. Last month, I married Amanda in a small ceremony at a mountain lodge outside Bridger Ridge. 15 people attended, all of them friends we'd made in Montana. No complicated family dynamics, no passive-aggressive in-laws, no one questioning whether I was good enough to be there. Just 2 people who chose each other, surrounded by people who supported that choice. During the reception, Amanda pulled me aside. "You know what I love most about us?" she said. "What's that?" Nobody had to exclude anyone else for us to be happy. We just built something good because we both wanted to. She was right. The thing about being uninvited from that cruise was that it forced me to realize I'd been uninvited from my own life for 15 years. I'd been so busy trying to be part of Karen's family that I'd forgotten to build a life that actually made me happy. The cruise was just the catalyst that made me finally acknowledge what I'd been avoiding. Some people might think I overreacted, that selling my house and leaving town over one text message was extreme. But those people didn't live through 15 years of small exclusions, tiny dismissals, and constant messages that I was tolerated, but not truly welcomed. They didn't sit through countless family dinners where Karen's parents reminisced about her life before me like those were the good old days they couldn't wait to return to. They didn't watch their wife choose her mother's comfort over their marriage again and again while pretending it was normal. The cruise wasn't the problem. It was just the moment when I finally stopped accepting behavior I never should have tolerated in the first place. And yeah, my response was decisive. Maybe even harsh. But sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is make a clean break instead of dragging out something that's already dead. 3 years after leaving Michigan, I barely think about Karen anymore. Occasionally, I wonder if she ever understood why that text message was the final straw. Whether she realized that uninviting your spouse from a vacation you paid for isn't just inconsiderate. It's a statement about how little you value them. But mostly, I focus on the life I built here in Montana. The business that's growing steadily. The house that's exactly what I wanted. The wife who treats me like an actual partner instead of a convenient accessory to her family's plans. I focus on the fact that I'm finally living a life where I matter, where my presence is wanted, not just tolerated. where nobody questions whether I'm really family because everyone already knows I am. If you're watching this and you're in a relationship where you're constantly made to feel like you don't quite measure up, like you're always one step away from being excluded, I want you to know something. It's not normal. It's not something you have to accept, and it's definitely not something you should spend 15 years trying to fix. Sometimes the best thing you can do is recognize that you deserve better and be brave enough to go find it, even if that means walking away from everything you built and starting over from scratch. Because here's what I learned from that text message and everything that followed. You can't force people to see your value. You can't convince someone to treat you with basic respect if they're determined not to. And you definitely can't build a happy life with someone who prioritizes avoiding conflict with their parents over protecting your dignity. The cruise was supposed to be a celebration of family. Instead, it became the moment I realized I'd never really been part of Karen's family at all. And once I accepted that truth, everything else became clear. I didn't need to fight for a place at a table where I wasn't wanted. I needed to build my own table, invite people who actually wanted me there, and stop wasting energy on relationships that had been broken from the start. 3 years later, I'm sitting on my porch in Montana, married to a woman who chose me without hesitation, living a life I built entirely on my own terms. And I'm grateful for that text message because without it, I might have spent another 15 years pretending everything was fine. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you turns out to be the best thing that could have happened. You just have to be brave enough to see it that way. If this story resonated with you, if it made you think about the value you bring to your own relationships, leave a comment below sharing your thoughts. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, someone who's been tolerating treatment they never should have accepted, share this video with them. Sometimes people need to hear that it's okay to walk away from situations that diminish them, that it's okay to demand better, that it's okay to build a new life when the old one stops serving you.